Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for being a viewer. Thank you so much for being a subscriber. Now, one of the main areas of contention as far as a massive stimulus, the past stimulus as well as the current stimulus that's being worked on, is aid for state and local governments. President Biden and the Democrats want $360 billion in aid for state and local governments, and the Republicans want a grand total of $0, a whopping $0 for state and local governments. Now, there has been a lot of contention, there's been a lot of animosity between both sides. The Republicans call aid for state and local governments a bailout for poorly run democratic states, and the Democrats believe that aid for state and local governments is important to help make sure we take care of police officers, firefighters, first responders, school teachers, and so on and so forth. So here's something important. One of the important Republican governors from New Hampshire is not very happy with what's going on with his neighboring state, with the neighboring governor, the Democratic governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo. I can tell you one thing for sure. Chris Sununu, there he is. What's up, Chris? The Republican governor of New Hampshire, and the New York governor, the Democratic governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo. There he is. What's up, Andrew? I can tell you that they are not best friends. In fact, I'm about to show you some important segments where Chris Sununu highlights the differing strategies, if you will, about managing states effectively. And by the way, as you can imagine, he says he's managing his state very well. He's creating jobs, but Andrew Cuomo simply wants handouts from the federal government. Let's start with the first segment, and I encourage you to watch this video all the way through to the end because I want you to decide whether you agree with Chris Sununu or not. These are two fundamentally different approaches. One approach is a pro-business approach, which is a Republican approach, and the other approach is a Democratic approach, which means provide aid so that we can help the areas that are impacted the most. Two different philosophies, if you will. Let's take a look at this first segment where Chris Sununu actually spars with the host from CNBC, and he tells the host from CNBC, who is a New Yorker, who was pro Cuomo, as you can see in the clip. He tells the host from CNBC, New York leadership is pathetic, and he says the rest of the country should not have to pay the bills of New York. Let's roll the tape and watch.
Governor, I was struck by something you said earlier, and I'm a New Yorker, so I took offense. So I wanted to just ask you, why didn't you just take a shot at the governor of New York for asking for money at a time when clearly New York has been harder hit than, for example, your own state? You talk about trying to help those that are in need. Clearly, the state of New York has been affected by this in a way that yours has not. And at the same time, I would suggest to you that New York is a quote-unquote giver in terms of federal taxes to the system, and your own state is a taker.
Look, somebody has to pay for that $15 billion that he's coming to with his handout for. Good management and good metrics and
New York has been paying for your handout every.
Hold on. Why should I pay his bill?
Governor, New York has been paying your bills is the point. The point is that New York has been paying your bills for years. So look, it makes no sense.
But the issue I have is actually for New Yorkers. The citizens of New York pay 60-70% more in taxes than the citizens of New Hampshire. And guess what? They're leaving New York in droves. The businesses, their families, they're all coming to places like New Hampshire. And if the only answer for your governor is to say, I'm coming with my handout, give me $15 billion or else I'll raise taxes, to give that type of threat on behalf of his own citizens, what he's going to do to his citizens if Joe Biden doesn't help him out, that's not leadership. That's not leadership. That's pathetic. And he has to be held accountable for it because guess what? I got to pay it, and you got to pay it, and the rest of the country has to pay his bill.
Governor,
I'm not asking the rest of the country to pay my bill.
With respect, the state of New Hampshire has had its handout for years. You've been taking money from states like New York and California for years. And I would suggest to you that recommending what the governor of New York should be doing. Look, there's lots of challenges in the state of New York, but in the giver and taker situation, I think it's clear, it's empirical, who's giving and who's taking.
I don't want a penny out of the federal government to replace my revenues. He's demanding $15 billion. He's demanding 15 times the
you take federal money constantly more than you give to the government. I mean,
how are we taking more? What are you basing that on? What are you basing that on? How are we taking more from the federal government? What do you
look at the federal tax receipts coming out of the state of New Hampshire versus the amount of federal money coming into the state of New Hampshire?
Okay, but again, this is about what he's doing to the citizens of New York. And they should be outraged. They should be furious that he cannot manage, like most of the other governors have done. I'm cutting taxes in this state. I'm creating opportunity, because it's not about bigger government. It's not about bigger systems. It's about giving efficiency to the system so they can provide the services that are needed at a fundamental level and letting people have that economic freedom. And that way the whole system rises. He's missed the boat completely on that.
Now, folks, that clip that you saw was from 3 weeks ago. I'm about to show you a couple of interesting clips featuring Chris Sununu from New Hampshire, the Republican governor from New Hampshire, on CNBC. Now, what's interesting is Chris Sununu talks about how well he's managing his own state, but he's happy to accept $1.5 billion in federal aid under the new $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan. In this segment, Chris Sununu essentially brags about the fact that they only have a $50 million deficit, although it was projected that the deficit would be higher. I'm talking specifically about the state of New Hampshire. And he talks about how badly managed, in his opinion, New York is, and he takes some direct shots at the Democratic governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo. In fact, Sununu goes so far as to say we managed our state well, much better than New York. We tax our residents less, we created more jobs, and he says people are leaving New York, and he says, hey, come on over to New Hampshire. Let's roll the tape and hear from Sununu.
Thanks for joining us. I think in the current relief bill, $1.5 billion is earmarked for New Hampshire state, local, and county budgets. You'll probably gladly accept that, but your deficit was $50 million. It's projected now, much lower than the $350. What is unique? Is there something unique to New Hampshire? You're just that amazing at doing this that you're able to get to. What are the real extenuating factors that allow for that?
Yeah, you said it, not me. But yeah, we're very unique here in New Hampshire, and I can't speak for other states. But I think when we saw that we were going to have a tough year in 20, we managed well. At least at the state level, we made sure a lot of our CARES Act money went into businesses so that even if they had a tough year, they were surviving, because we knew that there was going to be a strong comeback in 21, which there is, and those businesses are now here to really be part of that. So by putting a lot of our CARES Act money into everything from nonprofits, because they hire people to businesses, self-employment, we're one of the only states to do a self-employment fund, we just invested in those businesses through their toughest times and made sure that they were there. And overall, again, people are just coming to New Hampshire. They just are, for a variety of reasons. They're de-urbanizing out of New York and Boston and California. You see these other states are still taxing people at really high rates. I'm cutting taxes. I presented a budget yesterday where we had tax breaks for literally everyone. We have an interest and dividends tax. We're phasing that to zero. If you're a retiree, if you're a senior, come on into New Hampshire, because we're not going to tax you like these other states do. And I think that's just allowing things to grow organically, the right way. Businesses thrive, right? Individuals get more jobs, more people move in. That's sustainable growth, and that's what we're really banking on.
And now when Sununu was asked, hey, if you're doing so well, why are you taking the $1.5 billion in aid, and what are you going to do with the money? He says the $1.5 billion will be used to grow jobs, not government, and we will spend it smart. And he was implying that Governor Andrew Cuomo would essentially use that money to fund pension plans, to grow government, to have more bloated government. Again, folks, this is a difference in philosophies and difference in management strategies between a Republican governor and between a Democratic governor. But what makes this unique is that these two states, New Hampshire and New York, they're neighbors. They're right next to each other. And they have such big differences in philosophies. And I can tell you that the two governors clearly don't get along. Let's roll the tape and hear from Sununu.
You think that tax cuts will actually pay off in terms of generating revenue? Because if you get $1.5 billion, some people might raise an eyebrow. You're getting $1.5 billion in the relief bill, and then cutting taxes on people that live in New Hampshire. Is that
sure? So yeah. If I could, in 27, when I first became governor, we cut taxes like this back then, and we saw more revenue come into the state than ever before, because businesses want to be here, they want to grow here, so they grow organically. You can lower their tax rate, but they end up paying a little more tax just because they're growing so fast in a pro-business economy like New Hampshire. The $1.5 billion that's going to come in, that should not be and will not be used in New Hampshire to grow government. That's going to be used to grow jobs. It's one-time money for one-time spending. infrastructure, real stimulus. If states are using that money to grow government and just basically pay their operations, they're actually creating a bigger problem for themselves down the road. That's an extraordinary amount of money, $1.5 billion. We'll spend it smart. We'll spend it smarter than most any other state. We have a great reputation for doing so. But I'd caution the 49 other governors, you better be careful, because that stuff coming in, if you think that's just going to replace revenue for the long term, you're going to create a larger long-term liability on your books. We're not going to do that here. We're just going to create jobs with it.
And the final segment from Sununu in his interview today jumped out the most at me. Sununu essentially took a shot at the federal system for vaccine scheduling. He basically said it stinks, and he said New Hampshire created its own more efficient scheduling system for vaccines, and he said Memorial Day is going to be a rocket of a summer. He says everyone should start making their travel plans now because he expects the economy to be roaring, specifically in New Hampshire, by Memorial Day. Pretty interesting comments. Let's hear from Sununu.
Economy, it helps when, obviously, when COVID is something that looks like it's being handled well, and vaccines are important. You had issues with the second, there was some controversy about people not understanding how to get the second dose. Have those bugs been ironed out in New Hampshire?
Yeah, we were using this federal scheduling system. It stinks. It just does. So, we're going to adapt our own system. So we had about a 4 or 5 day hiccup where there was confusion over how to get your second dose. And basically we said, we're not going to live with it. We're going to challenge ourselves. In about 4 or 5 days, we took care of the issue. And now we're actually bringing folks that were scheduled to get their vaccines maybe in April. We're moving them to the front of the line because we're getting more vaccine. We're more efficient with our own system. So it's going very, very well here. But that is a big part of it. I think we're going to come out of this faster than most people think. I'm telling folks, come Memorial Day, we're going to have a rocket of a summer. I mean, start booking big, because I really think that we're, quote, back to normal. We'll have some different guidance and some safety protocols, of course, but this summer is going to look a lot different than last summer. It's going to be, I think, a phenomenal one, especially here in New Hampshire. And we're telling people to plan because, again, we can see that vaccine build. We can see our distribution going very, very well. So there's no reason to believe that we can't be very successful in the short term with COVID.
That was good, right? Whether you agree or disagree with Sununu, one thing's for sure, he's a pretty colorful character. He's an interesting character. And so is Governor Andrew Cuomo from New York. I can tell you that Chris Sununu, there he is. What's up, Chris? Thanks for the interview on CNBC. I can tell you that these guys simply don't get along. Let me know whether you agree or disagree with the things that Sununu said, with essentially the Republican governor's approach towards the utilization of money versus the Democratic governor's approach towards the utilization of money. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Please click like, please subscribe, please enable notifications. That really helps out the YouTube algorithm. That would mean a lot to me personally. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.